Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is practically bursting with spider people, and most of them actually have significant origins in the comic books. Wondering what those origins are? We're here to explain. Spoilers ahead. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse opens with Earth 65's Spider-Woman, Gwen Stacy, giving the audience a glimpse of her life after the events of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We learn that this version of Spider-Gwen has an origin story similar to her comic book counterparts, which occurred in Edge of Spider-Verse Issue 2. After receiving powers from the bite of an irradiated spider, she establishes a secret identity and fights crime as a vigilante. Her best friend Peter Parker transforms himself into the lizard, accidentally dying in their ensuing battle. Gwen's father, police officer George Stacy, mistakenly assumes that Spider-Woman murdered the boy. Frightened and uncertain about her relationships and future, she jumps at the chance to join the Spider Society. This sprawling team of spider-powered superheroes from different Earths have banded together under Earth 928's Miguel O'Hara to prevent the fabric of the multiverse from being destroyed by dimension-hopping anomalies. Along the way, she also discovers the shocking truth about her only other friend, Miles Morales, the Spider-Man of Earth 1610, and why he can never join the Society. However, going against the group's directives, she catches up with Miles during a mission. It's an impulsive choice that leads to disastrous consequences. Gwen eventually finds herself kicked out of the Society as Miles is stranded on a hostile, unfamiliar Earth. However, the drummer who never belonged decides to form her own band of old and new Spider friends to locate and rescue Miles. The protagonist of the Spider-Verse trilogy, Miles Morales is the sole Spider-Man of Earth 1610 and operates in Brooklyn. Over a year has passed since the events of Into the Spider-Verse, with Miles fully embracing his role as his city's superpowered protector, complete with a new costume that he designed himself.
My name is Miles Morales. I'm Brooklyn's one and only Spider-Man.
He crosses paths with the Spot, an apparent joke of a villain who rapidly transforms into a terrifying threat over the course of the film. Miles learns about the existence of the Spider Society following an unexpected visit from his friend, Earth 65's Gwen Stacy, who was secretly sent to his Earth to monitor and detain the Spot. Unbeknownst to her, Miles follows her through a multiversal portal as she tracks down the villain. There, his actions nearly cause the destruction of another Spider-Man's world. At the Society's headquarters, he's denied membership to the group and discovers that he was the original anomaly. The spider that bit him was from Earth 42 and was supposed to bite that world's spider person, not him. Worse, the Society tries to stop him from saving his father's life, as the death of someone close to them is a canon event that all spiders must suffer. Unwilling to accept this, Miles makes a desperate bid to go home, outmaneuvering the entire Society in the process. However, he lands on Earth 42 instead and is captured by that world's prowler, Miles Morales. Cross the Spider-Verse builds upon the post-credit scene of its predecessor by formally introducing Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man of Earth 928. This Spider-Man's dimension is set in the year 2099, and New York has transformed into the technologically advanced city of Nueva York. Aided by his hollow assistant, Lila, Miguel forms the Spider Society, taking it upon himself to maintain order across what he calls the arachno-humanoid polymultiverse. Interestingly, he has some major beef with Miles Morales. He blames Miles for being the very first multiverse anomaly in Into the Spider-Verse. This version of Spider-Man 2099 is barely recognizable from the original, who first appeared in 1992's Spider-Man 2099 #1. The Miguel we see in Across the Spider-Verse is an angry, tortured soul traumatized by his past failings, completely devoid of a sense of humor and prone to throwing objects in a fit of rage. While not an outright villain, he antagonizes Miles to a cruel degree. Aside from revealing that Miles' father is fated to die and prohibiting him from doing anything about it, Miguel also tells the fledgling superhero that he's nothing more than a mistake and that he was never meant to be Spider-Man. By the movie's end, Miguel and his strike team are hunting Miles across the multiverse, and it's clear that this vampire ninja Spider-Man will stop at nothing to keep the Spider-Verse canon intact. The first new spider character introduced in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is Jessica Drew, the Afroed arachnid-themed defender of a yet unrevealed Earth designation. A tough-as-nails, tough-love-giving, motorcycle-riding mother-to-be, this web-slinging wonder fearlessly jumps into battle. She instantly makes a strong impression on Spider-Gwen, whom she invites to the Society and takes under her wing as a protege. The original version of Jessica Drew was introduced in 1977's Marvel Spotlight number 32, and she's been given a major revamp in many ways for her silver screen animation debut. While not much is known about the origin story of Jessica's Across the Spider-Verse iteration, it is clear that the Society's de facto leader, Miguel O'Hara, trusts her considerably, to the point where she basically acts as his second in command. She is also critical of Peter B. Parker's mentoring skills, hardly hesitating to point to Miles as proof that he is a terrible teacher. Initially, Jessica is strict towards Gwen, emphasizing that the latter is her star student and downright disapproving of her continued association with Miles. She even does nothing when Miguel expels Gwen from the society and sends her home. By the film's end, however, Jessica seems proud that Gwen has taken the initiative to search for Miles herself without the society's support. During the sequence where the Spot first explores the possibilities of his growing powers, he takes a quick detour to Earth 13122, the home of Lego Spider-Man. This unique take on the web-slinger was completely absent in the promotional materials leading up to the release of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. However, his inclusion was revealed during the main cast's interview with Fandango. Surprisingly, Lego Peter Parker plays a much bigger role than just a blink-and-you'll-miss-it cameo. After the black and white baddie shows up in the Lego universe and destroys a chunk of the Daily Bugle building, we learn that Lego Peter Parker witnessed the whole event. Taking a quick break from J. Jonah Jameson's hot-headed hassling, the mild-mannered minifigure hides in a different room and transforms into Lego Spider-Man. He activates his Spider Society device and reports the incident to Miguel O'Hara, who thanks him and calls him one of their best Spider-Men. Lego Spider-Man is a welcome addition here and also represents a full-circle moment of sorts. The first official Lego sets featuring the hero were tie-ins for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, released in 2002. With that said, the Lego Spider-Man we see in Across the Spider-Verse is based on the version that came with the comic-inspired Daily Bugle set, which came out in 2021. When Gwen Stacy is ordered to find and arrest the Spot in Earth 50101's Mumbattan, an invisible Miles Morales secretly follows her. As a result, Miles also meets Gwen's contact and Spider Society teammate there, Pavitr Prabhakar, that Earth's Spider-Man. Introduced as a lighthearted soul who absolutely revels in being Spider-Man, Pavitr gracefully swings through the city with his web bangles, showing a natural gift for superheroics despite being a superhero for just 6 months.
Being Spider-Man is so easy. I fight a few bad guys, quick break for chai with my auntie.
He is also quick to sense the romantic tension between Miles and Gwen, and doesn't hesitate to bring it up multiple times, while sharply poking fun at Western stereotypes of Indian culture during their fight against the Spot. Unfortunately, this encounter paves the way for a demonstration of the consequences of multiversal meddling, when Miles prevents a canon event by saving Earth 50101's Inspector Singh from being crushed by debris. Pavitr's reality begins to collapse. We then see the Spider Society's multiverse repair team on the scene, planting devices that were designed to prevent dimensional incursions. In the comics, the character first appeared in 2005's Spider-Man India #1. There, he sports a costume that is much closer in appearance to the classic Spider-Man suit, but with white pants and red-pointed shoes. Additionally, the comics version of Pavitr operates in Mumbai rather than a made-up location. Whenever applicable, Across the Spider-Verse makes sure that each Spider character incorporates visual aspects of their respective dimensions into their overall aesthetic. There is no better example of this than the Spider-Man of Earth 138, Hobie Brown, the Spider-Punk. A literal walking collage of newspapers and band posters, the anarchic Spider-Punk coolly strums his guitar in the heat of battle, bringing electrifying energy wherever he goes, while never hesitating to give the man the middle finger. Hobie lends some much-needed assistance to Spider-Gwen, Miles, and Pavitr Prabhakar at a critical moment on Earth 50101 as they try to stop the Spot from activating Alchemax's super collider in that reality. He also accompanies Miles and Gwen to the Spider Society HQ on Earth 928, where it quickly becomes clear that he and Miguel O'Hara mutually dislike each other. In one sequence, Hobie is thrilled when Peter B. Parker's daughter Mayday fills her diaper while Miguel is holding her, saluting the child while calling the act "taking a crap on the establishment." Crucially, Hobie helps Miles escape from captivity, taking advantage of the ensuing chaos at the Spider Society HQ to quit. Later on, his friendship with Gwen becomes a massive boom when both Miles and Gwen go rogue. The Project Bootleg dimension-hopping device he leaves for her on Earth 65 enables Gwen to recruit her trusted Spider allies to join her Splinter group. The Spider-Mobile is one of the oddest yet most iconic parts of Spider-Man's comic book history. Built together by Spider-Man and his best bud, the Human Torch, the Spider-Mobile made its first full appearance in 1974's Amazing Spider-Man #130, but was rendered unusable roughly 30 issues later. Still, it has been brought back repeatedly in the books as both a functional vehicle and a museum display piece, much to the web-slinger's embarrassment. In recent years, however, its most noteworthy comeback was in 2015's Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3 #12, not as a vehicle for Spider-Man to ride, but as a legitimate, sentient Spider-Man variation from Earth 53931. This version of the Spider-Mobile, along with the secret identity of Peter Parkedcar, makes an appearance in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It is perhaps the sheer ridiculousness of Parkedcar's existence that earned it a few seconds in the spotlight. The Spider-Mobile is one of the few Spider Society members Miles gets officially introduced to, complete with its Earth designation in a caption box while he explores the facilities of the Spider Society HQ with Spider-Gwen, Spider-Punk, and Jessica Drew. Parkedcar also joins the rest of the Society in trying to apprehend Miles, but it humorously fails to cross the web tightrope held by another Spider variant. One look at the Scarlet Spider in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse would be enough for any comics fan to know that this version of Ben Reilly embodies the essence of grim and gritty 1990s comics, from heavily inked head to toe. Unfortunately, fans who were expecting a respectable interpretation of the fan-favorite Spider clone are unlikely to find it in this iteration. Hailing from Earth 94, a reference to the character's first appearance as the Scarlet Spider in 1994's Web of Spider-Man number 118, the Ben Reilly we meet in this movie is a tongue-in-cheek caricature of 90s comic book cliches. From his unnecessarily verbose descriptions of otherwise mundane objects, his obsession with muscles and hitting the perfect pose, and his penchant for whiny introspection, it's a Herculean challenge to take this character seriously, particularly because he takes himself too seriously. The Scarlet Spider joins Miguel O'Hara and Jessica Drew during the film's third act as they search for Miles Morales on Earth 1610. Unfortunately, his peculiar mannerisms and profound lack of awareness quickly become his undoing. Spider-Gwen makes short work of him, tricking him into getting sucked into her bootleg portal while separating him from his dimension-crossing device. At this point, it's anyone's guess if he'll show up in the next film, and if he'll be more than just a walking stereotype played for laughs. When Miles first steps into the Spider Society HQ, he meets a mind-blowing array of Spider characters with different abilities. Still, this doesn't stop the excited youth from introducing himself as Spider-Man to the cyberspace spider hero called Spider-Byte, who sarcastically deadpans, "Whoa, no way, all of us are." In Across the Spider-Verse, Margo's digital avatar acts as the gatekeeper of sorts for the Spider Society. Operating from the control room, one of Spider-Byte's responsibilities is to send the multiverse-crossing supervillains the Society detains back to their respective dimensions. As the resident arachnid-themed Avenger of Earth 22191, this version of Margo Kess could just as easily be another virtual extension of her comic book counterpart, who first appeared in 2018's Vault of Spiders #1. After successfully eluding the entire Spider Society, Miles uses his ability to turn invisible to evade Margo's gaze and sneaks into the teleporter in an attempt to send himself back to Earth 1610. However, because the teleporter selects where to send its passenger based on the origin of their powers, it mistakenly sends Miles to Earth 42, the home dimension of the spider that bit him. Crucially, Margo gets an opportunity to reboot the system and prevent Miles from escaping, but opts to not do anything. Instead, she lets him beam out of their HQ. So it's no surprise when she shows up as a member of Spider-Gwen's newly formed rogue faction in the film's final scenes. Of course, it wouldn't be a proper Spider-Verse movie without everyone's favorite easygoing Spider Sensei, Peter B. Parker.
Watch this. He's gonna say, "You've got 24 hours."
You've got 24 hours.
What this means is there could be...
This time around, it looks like the old tired Spider-Man of Earth 616, or as Spider-Punk calls him, humbling reality Spider-Man, has managed to finally pick himself up and get his act together. He has also traded his homeless, dimension-displaced getup from Into the Spider-Verse for a proper set of threads, specifically a pink bathrobe and baby harness. In other words, the dad-bod Spider-Man has become an actual dad. Upon his return to his own dimension, Peter reconciles with Mary Jane Watson. Their rekindled love results in the birth of their daughter, Mayday, who has inherited her father's amazing spider powers. Ever the devoted parent, Peter made her a web-shooting bracelet. As it turns out, Peter's adventures with Miles Morales in the previous film helped him get over his fear of becoming a parent. He even admits as much to his protege during their brief but heated conversation after Miles breaks out of the Spider Society HQ. After Miles escapes, Peter returns to his homeworld, setting Mayday in her crib and half-heartedly denying to MJ that he brought their kid on another fight. However, this quiet night at the Parker household comes to an end when Spider-Gwen pops up in Peter's backyard through Hobie's dimension-hopping device. As expected, Peter decides to join Gwen in her search for Miles. When the first trailer for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was released, eagle-eyed Spider fans immediately spotted a familiar, albeit largely forgotten version of the web-slinger mixed in with the rest of the Spider Society, the Peter Parker of Earth 751263, otherwise known as Spider-Man Unlimited from the eponymous 1999 cartoon. This small detail got many fans excited, as it pretty much confirmed the likelihood of other more popular animated Spider-Men showing up in Across the Spider-Verse as well. True enough, subsequent promotional materials revealed that the Spider-Man of the fan-favorite Spectacular Spider-Man animated series from 2008, designated as Earth 26496, is also part of the movie. While Unlimited didn't really get to do anything significant during the film's runtime, Spectacular gets 2 moments to shine. Aside from a scene during Miguel O'Hara's arachno-humanoid poly-multiverse explainer depicting Spectacular's version of the ASM 90 canon event, voice actor Josh Keaton briefly reprises his role. He gets to deliver a one-liner meant to dissuade Miles from preventing Earth 1610's canon event, the death of his father, the recently promoted Captain Jeff Morales. One not-so-surprising inclusion is the Spider-Man from Earth 67, the Spider-Man from The Pointing Me. The 67 Spider-Man joins the Society in pursuing Miles, bravely announcing his arrival before demonstrating his signature ineffectiveness by swinging way too slow to catch the Renegade Spider. It's safe to say that one of the biggest questions on everyone's minds about Across the Spider-Verse was, would Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland be part of the movie? After all, we recently witnessed the live-action Spider Trio make cinematic history in 2021's Spider-Man No Way Home, so it would make sense for them to be in another multiverse-spanning Spider flick. The answer is, sort of. Both Maguire, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man of Earth 96283, and Garfield, the amazing Spider-Man of Earth 120703, play small roles in Across the Spider-Verse. Miguel explains to Miles that every Spider-Man must go through a canon event that involves a character close to the web-slinger of the universe dying in a tragic way. During the explanation, a few seconds of the death of Captain George Stacy from 2012's The Amazing Spider-Man is shown. Moments later, the death of Uncle Ben, arguably the canon event of canon events for most versions of Spider-Man, becomes the focus of the discussion. In the background, we see snippets of Maguire and Cliff Robertson's Ben Parker, who dies in 2002's Spider-Man. Meanwhile, Holland's Spider-Man doesn't appear at all, although he does get mentioned in the first few minutes of Across the Spider-Verse.
Don't even get me started on Doctor Strange and the little nerd back on Earth 1999-99.
While many members of the Spider Society and Across the Spider-Verse can easily be described as Spider-Man variants based on their costumes, there are a handful with distinct visual elements that make them stand out from the Spider crowd. Undoubtedly, one of them is Max Bourne, the Spider-Man of 2211, who hails from the comic book world of Earth 9500. This futuristic Spider-Man takes the arachnid aesthetic to a whole new level. Aside from his multi-eyed helmet, he also sports 4 red appendages protruding from what looks like a metallic backpack. In Across the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man 2211 briefly steals the show near the beginning of Miles Morales' extended chase sequence, when the teenager hilariously clings to Bourne's crimson carapace in a feeble attempt to hide from the rest of the Society. This also causes the Society to mistake Bourne for Miles for a few seconds, emphasizing that the group has become so large that they don't even know one another's names. Interestingly enough, Spider-Man 2211's first appearance was in a comic book that featured 2 different versions of the web-slinger meeting. The 1995 one-shot Spider-Man 2099 meets Spider-Man number 1. Similar to his role in this film, Spider-Man 2211's job in that comic is to help preserve the integrity of the timeline. He appears in the nick of time to save Peter Parker and Miguel O'Hara from being erased from existence via the retcon bombs of the Hobgoblin of 2211. As part of the marketing efforts for Across the Spider-Verse, Sony released a clip welcoming audiences to the Spider Zoo. Indeed, there's a mini menagerie of spider-powered animals who somehow qualified for Spider Society membership. Among the first we meet is Widow, nicknamed Spider-Horse, the trusty masked steed of Patrick O'Hara, the cowboy Spider-Man of Earth 31913. There's also Spider-Cat, a character originally from 2011's Spider Island I Love New York City number 1, who spits up a web hairball in Miles Morales' face. Spider-Monkey from the Marvel Apes dimension also appears a few times in the extended chase sequence, though the spider-powered simian's agility does little good in helping the Society apprehend Miles. The most attention-grabbing spider creature here, however, is Spider-Rex, a Tyrannosaurus Rex in a Spider-Man costume, complete with web shooters around its tiny wrists. A recent comics creation that debuted in 2022's Edge of Spider-Verse number 1, Spider-Rex was originally a pteranodon simultaneously bitten by a T-Rex and smashed by a meteorite with alien spider stowaways. A Freaky Friday situation ensues with the pterodon now inhabiting the T-Rex's body, inexplicably clad in a spider-themed suit.
It can get weirder.
Nicolas Cage told Screen Rant in January 2023 that Sony did not reach out to him to reprise his role as Spider-Man Noir in Into the Spider-Verse. Neither Kimiko Glenn nor John Mulaney, who played Penny Parker and Spider-Ham, confirmed their participation, quashing hopes for the secondary Spider Trio's return in Across the Spider-Verse. As it turns out, however, the multiversal pals do pop up unexpectedly, and it looks like they'll play even bigger roles in the next film, Beyond the Spider-Verse. The first of the three to appear in Across the Spider-Verse is Penny, who is seen piloting an upgraded, more streamlined version of her companion spider's robotic costume, after the original was destroyed in the previous movie's final battle. This new mechanical suit closely resembles its comic book counterpart, as seen in 2014's Edge of Spider-Verse #5. As for Spider-Ham and Spider-Man Noir, the two show up at the end of the film as members of Spider-Gwen's Splinter Spider Squad to help her outmaneuver Miguel O'Hara's Spider Society and find Miles first. Miguel O'Hara's Spider Society spans the entirety of the Spider-Verse and features both existing characters and original heroes created for Across the Spider-Verse. A good number of the Spider Society members draw design inspiration from established Spider folks, but aren't 100% accurate to their multimedia counterparts. For example, one character looks like Arachnido Jr., while a few are wearing different versions of Earth 616 Spider-Man's various spider armors. One Society member resembles Spider-Man's brutal clone, Spider-Side. Others draw inspiration from characters like Ai Apayek and Julia Carpenter's Spider-Woman. Some fans even reportedly spotted Takuya Yamashiro, Toei's live-action Spider-Man, in the mix. We also see Spinneret and Spiderling, Mangaverse Spider-Man from Earth 2301, and a version of the bombastic Bagman. Curiously, the Spider-Man from the Insomniac game universe appears not once, but twice, one wearing his PS4 Advanced suit, and the other rocking the suit from Marvel's Spider-Man 2 for the PS5. And as expected, many of these characters don't really do anything significant in the film. Meanwhile, the Spider variants created for Across the Spider-Verse include Malala Windsor, aka Spider UK of Earth 835, Cyborg Spider-Woman, and the Spider-Sona of Metro Boomin, who worked on the Across the Spider-Verse soundtrack.